All right, groovy. Here we go.
Boom!
Boom. Hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris. On my right-hand side is my right-hand man, Gabriel. Okay. Today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Sons of Butcher has a new EP out called Lockdown in Steel Town, which was released on June 19th via Infamous Butcher Records. Right now I'm being joined by Ricky Butcher to share some more information about what the Sons, I'm going to say the boys, the Butcher Boys, that's a different thing altogether. The Sons of Butcher have got going on. So, Ricky, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Super glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely great to have you on. Dig what you guys are doing. Love the, I don't know, do you call it parody stuff? Like, it's not really a parody. What would it be a parody of? But I guess...
Yeah, it's more like comedy, party rock kind of thing.
Yeah, that works. And then taking on the, I don't know, what do you call it? Just this, what's going on?
Yeah, the current times. It's just like... You know, I was wondering what would Saul, Doug, and Ricky be up to during this lockdown. You know, they're pretty volatile at best of times. So now they're all locked in the shop together, and you know what could possibly go wrong. So that's sort of the driving force of the EP was just updating everyone on what these characters have been up to since there's no show currently on the air anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess take us through then. Was that something that you guys wanted to do consciously, or did you guys just start writing some tunes and then it just, you know, one thing led to another and you thought, you know what, this would be kind of cool if we take these tunes and package them as an update?
Yeah, what happened, like, you know, we got the rights back recently, so we have been trying to make a pilot ourselves, which is taking a long time, but we have the help of Patreon. People are there giving us money, helping us make it. So we've done a few versions, and now we're almost finished the pilot, and we're going to try pitching it to networks, try to get the show back. So as a result, we've all been chatting and doing weekly live streams on our Sons of Butcher Facebook and stuff, and so we've actually been spending more time together than ever in the last 10 years. And so as a result, I happened to just write this song Quarantine as a joke, and then I dabbled with the Speaking Moistly cover, and then my brother wrote lyrics for the song, which later became Effin' Confused, which is about the pandemic and what to believe, all the information. So once he sent me that, and I had a song that I was writing for Doug anyway, so I just sent him that. He sang on it, sent it back, and I was like, oh, I like that. And then so that plus the other two, and then I thought, I'm just going to ask Dave if he wants to do a couple Saul songs. Then we have a real Sons of Butcher EP here. And so I asked him, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'm not doing anything, and everyone's in lockdown, so... He did it, and then I was just like, oh, 5 songs. Let's just do an EP, and they're all thematically the same. So let's just do it, and that's kind of how it was all born. It all just happened to, you know, we're all just sitting around reflecting on what these characters might be up to, and as a result, these tunes just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, no, it is pretty neat. I mean, you bring up so many interesting things there we could chat about for the next 5 hours, and so I think that, you know, yeah. Thankfully we don't have anywhere else to go. But yeah. you said it pretty much started with this track called Quarantine, and so I guess my first question then is, number one, with the spelling, I guess, what are you trying to get at? Because it's spelled differently.
Yeah, that's like a little nod to like Ricky Butcher's, you know, his whole like MO is singing about sex and drugs and partying, and he's got a very much like teenage aesthetic to everything he does, even though now Ricky Butcher's 40. Like back in the show, he was supposed to be like 18 back in the show, and so you know there's songs like underage party and like all this like dicey kind of content. But as a result, this song with the teen instead of the regular teen, that was brought up by our guitar player. He's like, shouldn't it be Quarantine? And I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It should be, just because it's a kind of a Ricky. It started out as a Ricky solo song, and I started playing it on like various like COVID. Like benefits and stuff like that, acoustic versions. And so I started to pick up some tracks and people liked it. So then I did a full rock version and then I was like, yeah, this is definitely Sons of Butcher material, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then something else that you had mentioned there is got the rights back to the show, making a pilot for the show and then pitching it to the networks. So I'm just interestingly curious, what goes into that process? Do you need to get a management team that reaches out to other managers? How does this whole thing work? How do you pitch a pilot to a network?
Yeah, in the early days versus now, like I was working on the Red Green show and I met all the right people to like a production company, S&S Productions, to take it to the broadcaster and pitch it for me, like guys in suits type of thing. Even though I was there, but I was for sure minimized in those meetings because I'm just some long-haired young, skid from Hamilton. So the
you really feel?
us, yeah, the suits got us the gig, and that was awesome. But nowadays, way harder, way vast amount of content out there, lots of platforms. So now, luckily for us, and hopefully this works out, but a couple of the execs on our show from back in the day have gone on to do bigger things. And so they're kind of poking around, looking at what we're doing now. We're hoping that maybe if they like what we're doing, that they will take it to the people for us, because we certainly don't know how to pitch anything just as much as the next guy these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I guess my next question is, why not just create a YouTube channel and be in control of it yourselves? Is there something, an appeal to being on a network?
Yeah, we thought about doing that, but the big problem is that the show can't really be done for no money, because it's like quite an undertaking with all the animation. And we even tried to streamline the process by making all the heads video heads, so it's less animation, and it's easier to do now just to shoot people on the green screen and stick their heads. Like we're doing it with fans, like send in your heads and we'll include you in the crowd scene or whatever, and we just cut them out and throw them on in there on cartoon bodies. So it's like,
South Park type stuff.
Yeah. So like it's quite a process. So to do it ourselves, we would need probably a big giant Patreon base. Right now we have like we've got around 70 or so. We had over 100 in the heat of it all. But nowadays it's like the years gone by, we've gotten a couple scenes done. It does take forever. So basically, to do it properly, we need a bunch of people, animators, a group, like a production company, and like just actually do it properly with budget. And seemingly can't really get that right now with YouTube or even Patreon for that matter. So we're trying to take it to the bigger money people, and then that way we can do it the way it's intended, which is a season and then a new album and then a tour of Canada each time.
Wow.
That would be amazing. That sort of was the original dream for the show, and we did 2 seasons, 2 tours, and then it got canceled. But we are, hoping that maybe the networks can see the value. Nobody's done video heads on cartoon bodies ever since. I don't know if that's because it's weird looking or if just no one's done it. And so it's still sort of like a Sons of Butcher look. So it's like I feel like we should just capitalize on the fact that we're the only video head cartoon body show there is, really.
Well, you bring up a good point, and I think that's why I mentioned South Park, because a lot of people don't know that the reason that the animation looked the way it did is because they couldn't afford to do it better.
Yeah, exactly.
And it kind of becomes its own thing after a while. Well,
surprisingly, the new pilot looks way better than the show ever looked, in my opinion. Like, yeah, it looks a little different, and so the hardcore fans might say, I don't like the new look, but the new look is like HD head, so you can really see all the reactions, the smile lines. You can see all the like facial stuff you want to see. Before it was kind of blobby like a cartoon on purpose, but I think it looks better like this. And also the backgrounds look way better now. The background guy we used, Jason Deesberg, he just kept at it, and his stuff just keeps getting slicker and more beautiful. So it's like it's really popping now. Like, and plus we got like some new characters in it. We got B.A. Johnson, who's this Hamilton artist who's amazing. He's playing B.A. Butcher. So we got all these new heads and a new look, and it just feels like inspired now, rebooted.
Mm-hmm. Abso-freaking-lutely. And then speaking of rebooted, part of the compilation ended up being a cover of Speaking Moistly, which obviously is Edmonton's own. I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember reading the news article and thinking, somebody in Edmonton just did that?
Yeah. I heard that and instantly loved the song that he made. And so it just was in my head, and I just pictured it heavy. And I just happened to be talking to Andy Colonico from Revive the Rose. He's this Welland band, and he just interviewed me. So I was doing that tune and thought it'd be cool to do like a trade-off verses and choruses with this other dude and have a guest singer on the track. And so then he agreed, and we just kind of threw that together, and then we shot that gross video. I don't know if you saw the video, but we're just speaking moistly.
I saw it. Yeah. It's gross.
Yeah, lots of moisture flying.
There is lots of moisture flying.
Yeah, we made sure to do lots of green screen so that there was no actual moisture flying. So it's kind of like trick shots, but all in all, it's pretty gross for sure.
Absolutely. And if you want to check out that music video, you can do so by going to today's show notes at www.therockmetalpodcast.ca. Now, I'm guessing that the reason that this particular song, Speaking Moistly, got the music video is just because like, immediately you thought, well, I know how to make a music video for this.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was like, it was actually coming out in like a week, and I was like, I really wanted a video for this, but we couldn't shoot because of lockdown restrictions. So finally, it was like, days away, and we're like, let's just get together, stay 6 feet apart, and shoot this in the backyard. Get a hose, get a spray bottle. Let's just do our best. And hopefully, and originally I was like, let's just make a lyric video. So it's like really like low budget, and like no one's gonna worry about how good it is. It's just for the lyrics, just to read the lyrics, like a visualizer. But then I liked how it turned out. We got my buddy Rob Lindsay from Paradox Pictures. He worked on Air Farce. I used to work with him on Air Farce at CBC. And he cut it up and edited it for us. So he's really the reason it's so amazing, is he's got a great vision and a great sense of timing. So he made this awesome cut, and I was like, oh yeah, I really like this. Let's just release it as an actual video. That's when I contacted Asher. I was like, hey man, this is coming out like tomorrow, but is there any way you can get it out there?
I bet he loved that.
He hates that.
I bet he was so excited. I love it when bands hit me up last minute.
Yeah, I'm trying to give him more lead time now.
Well, I mean, if Asher's listening in, which he better be, then, thank you for doing what you do so that we could be in touch with this fine young man.
Asher's awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah, I know. Especially when he makes his way out west, and we can chat about, I don't know, things you do in Edmonton. He seems to be happier here than I am. So, I mean, we always talk about how we're going to switch. I'll go live in Montreal and eat poutine every day, and he can come out to Edmonton to do whatever it is you do in Edmonton.
We had some great shows in Edmonton. Like, that was one of the first big shows we ever had, was Edmonton in 2006. Huge turnout. A Starlight Lounge, I think, or something like that. Starlight Room.
Yeah, no, I can see that. If you guys can pack the Starlight Room in Edmonton, then that's really good. And we definitely, what I will say about the Edmonton, I'm not from Edmonton originally, I'm from Winnipeg, but I've noticed that Edmonton is a fairly heavy metal community.
Yeah, they are. It's just like never disappointed in Alberta ever with our shows.
Very good to know. Now, something else you had mentioned when we were initially chatting was that you were working on finishing up another music video, not for these two tracks, Quaranteen and Speaking Moistly, but for another track on the EP called Lockdown in Steeltown, which is the closes out the EP, because we open up with Lockdown Phase 1, and then we close out with Lockdown in Steeltown. And Steeltown being Hamilton, yeah?
Yes, sir. Actually, the video I'm working on right now is Lockdown Phase 1.
Okay.
And it's actually, it came about because I wanted to thank the Patreon fans for all their dedication for the whole year. And so I was like, I had this idea that we could just shoot this video where it's like Saul Butcher's at home, he gets a delivery, and then he like sees a Zoom dance party going on. It's just one guy dancing. So he goes over and he's like, this looks fun, and he hits invite, and then next thing you know, it populates a Zoom conference with like all the fans who start popping up on the screen, including the band who's playing, and it just becomes a huge gallery view of fans rocking out, and then it just intercuts the band with the fans for the rest of the video, and then of course at the end, Saul leaves his Zoom on and does something embarrassing, which we all see. And so that was the whole concept of the video, and so I had to get all the fans who were interested to come and meet me on Zoom at 8 p.m. on this one specific day so I can get the shots of them arriving to the call. Then they all sent me their own videos of them replicating what they did on that night so I could cut to them on a single, and then I just put it all together. So it's this kind of big fan collage video. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I always love fan videos because my first question always is, did you think it would be as easy as it was to put together a fan video, and were you surprised by the, I'm guessing, apparent inundation of answers to your request?
You know what's funny is I work in television. I work in all kinds of live TV and packaged TV shows, and like these fans were so amazingly professional. They all came at the right time. Then they got there, they did exactly what they're supposed to do. There's no confusion. Nobody was pissed off. It was just like such an awesome experience. And I got everything I could possibly have wanted and more for free from these amazing fans. So the least I can do is make a cool video out of it, you know? I got super stoked. It was way easier than I thought. I thought it was going to be a complete disaster because a lot of people that herd together, and if everyone talks at the same time on Zoom, no one can hear anything. So, but it was very quiet. I think me and Max and Dave were the only ones talking, and everyone knew exactly what was up, and they all delivered. They all sent me their single shots so I could cut to them, and it's just turned out to be quite a cool little video after all. I wasn't sure what it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that should be live by the time that we aired this episode, and if it is, then I'll go ahead and grab the link and I'll go ahead and post it. So if you were listening in still to the interview at this point, then hello, how are you? Congratulations. And
what are you waiting for?
Excuse me, what's that?
I'm saying, what are you waiting for?
Go to today's show notes at www.therockmetalpodcast.ca and go ahead and check it out. Now, I guess we've already gone and chatted about the EP, because one of my things I was going to ask is, it seems like as I was listening to the EP that it's logically ordered. Like it starts off at the beginning and just kind of gradually goes through, for a lack of, we'll scientifically call it entropy. It goes through the entropy of what has been quarantine for a lot of people. Or more specifically, the Sons of Butcher. So I guess maybe take us through the EP. Am I right? Is it sequentially ordered with the tracks go?
Yeah, it totally is. It starts out with Saul saying, okay, he's got a runny nose, so now it's 14 days of quarantine, right? And then the second track is Ricky saying it's day 14. So it's like those days have passed and Ricky's had it. And then it's like Doug just being inundated, because as time went on with the pandemic, I'm sure everyone's news feed on their socials would fill up with all the different possibilities of what it really is. If it's not really a disease, then what is it? And blah, blah, blah. You know how it is. It's a million speculations as to what it is. So Doug just like, he's already a bit of a conspiracy kind of dude, believes in Bigfoot, believes in everything. So Doug is naturally the one to be conflicted with what to believe. So that was natural for Jay to write as Doug. And then, of course, Speaking Moistly, it's just like a great going into the next phase song. Like, it's like we're all coming out of the first intense thing, and now it's like, how can we go forward without infecting each other? So it's like a little instructional song rather. And then Locked Out of Steeltown is the closer, in which basically they're about to kill each other from being together for so long, locked up, and obviously lots of incidences have happened along the way. And so now they're just like had it, and now Saul's like super excited that they could actually open up and have two people at a time in the shop, So he's like, it's like kind of definitely a storytelling song where by the end it's like a totally different vibe. It's like now they're opening again.
Beautiful. All right. Well, kind of gave the plan, selling the pilot to a network, and I'm really curious to hear how that goes, because that's something that I get asked a lot, not for piloting shows, but since I work with labels and managers and promoters, I've been doing the podcast now for a few years. A question I get from bands is, how do we get onto a record label? And so I can answer that question. Not a guarantee, obviously, but I can answer that question. But kind of an interesting one is on the similar side of the entertainment industry is, okay, in 2020, how would you go about getting onto a network? What does that look like? Would Amazon suit you, Amazon Prime, or would Netflix suit you, or are you still looking to get onto something similar to like what Teletoon was?
Yeah, I think Netflix, and of course there's a Canadian branch of the Comedy Network from the U.S. that started not that long ago. So like that would be a huge natural inclination to go for them. Also, I wouldn't rule out Teletoon even. I'm sure that they were the original network that broadcasted Sons of Butcher, so it's like maybe they'd like to revisit that and get back the first two seasons as well, so they get a whole bunch of content for the one price. But who knows? I mean, I have no idea who works there anymore. It's been a decade, so we're just kind of like feeling it out. But definitely like Netflix, Comedy Network Canada, and Teletoon are at the top of the pile. But really, we're not picky. We just want to make the show again,
Cool. And definitely looking forward to hearing the advancement on that, because that is definitely some very exciting and very cool stuff. And it's just something you'd mentioned is like, back then this is what you would do, this is what you do now. It reminds me of an interview with Chad Kroeger where he said, man, I would hate to be starting Nickelback today because 25 years ago or whatever it was, I knew how to get Nickelback onto the store shelves, but there's no store shelves anymore. What do I do?
Yeah, like back in those days, it was like you'd hand like the demo tape to like somebody in the band or something, and then they'd give it to their manager. It's like that's just like fables now. Like, how does that happen now? There's no physical medium to hand off. You hand a vinyl record off, it's like not the same, you know?
I know. Here's my USB stick.
Yeah, they lose it. You know, no one listens to it anyway. It's just different. Back then, it was like a thing to hear. Nowadays, it's like you could drop that in 2 seconds and you'd hear a million other things in the same day. Like, there's so much content out there.
Yeah. Groovy. Now, speaking of content and the plan to get the show on the network and come up with an album and do a tour, I guess more realistically, you know, especially with the summer kind of being a crapshoot for a lot of bands, what should we expect next? I guess just more music videos to promote the EP over the next couple of months?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of different projects coming up. Like, this EP was kind of like the last thing that I was doing. I was like, oh, this, and it happened to be the first thing to come out. But the next thing is my other band, Moonlight Desires, who do 80s covers of heavy covers of 80s pop songs. And so we have an EP coming out in July called At the Movies. That's got 4 songs on it. And then in August, I want to do a Ricky Butcher solo album called Fuck the Album.
Whoa!
And it's 20 tracks, 19 minutes. And it's basically, it's like the guys are in the studio cutting a record. So there's like sketches mixed in. It's kind of the closest thing to like a Tenacious D record that we've done, where there's like some talking, some sketches, and some just jokes worked in. It's kind of like a listening experience. So that's the whole summer is going to be a content explosion until the fall. And then hopefully by the fall we can start playing shows. Yeah,
that would be absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. And if those listening have not been to Hamilton in the fall, it is gorgy.
Yeah, it is. It's I live right by Gage Park, and it's like beautiful this time of year.
Yeah, gorgeous. All right, well, Ricky, unless there's anything that you wanted to throw out there that I didn't ask about or bring up, I just wanted to thank you for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast.
Oh, it's super awesome to be here, man. I appreciated you wanting me on here to talk. Awesome.